Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the Celtic Way. My name is Ryan McGinley. Tonight, I'm delighted to be joined by Tony Haggerty, who is still in Munich. He's been there for a couple of days now, sort of sampling the atmosphere. It's been just over 24 hours since Celtic's draw with Bayern Munich, which ultimately sealed their fate and meant that they were out of the Champions League at the playoff stage. But we're here to talk about Europe as a whole for Celtic. What went right for them, what went wrong, and where they can improve as they go into next season and the qualifiers that will meet them there. Tony, how are you doing this evening? How is Munich a day after that game?
You can see the picturesque background there, Ryan. This is Marienplatz, which is the main square in Munich, just down from Munich Central. It's a lovely place, very busy, big hubbub. You can hear the bells probably in the background as well. Just gone 6 o'clock over here, so lots of bell ringing stuff. But yeah, it's been excellent. But you know, you've still got that lingering sense of what if, haven't you? And also just immense pride in this football team and that performance. That was a display for the ages, and one that everybody who was lucky to be here and witness will remember for a long, long time. Going toe to toe with a European superpower and taking them on in their own backyard and rattling them. Ryan, I think it's fair to say Celtic rattled Bayern Munich last night, and ultimately it was tears for souvenirs, a real sickener with Alphonso Davies' goal. But I don't know about you, I just allowed myself to dream when Kuhn scored, and I did think it was happening, and they deserved better, didn't they? They really did. I have to say that.
They did, and in some ways, I'm thinking probably the better team won on the night in terms of the chances that were made, despite Celtic's great defensive performance. Look at the stats. They had over 2 XG. They made massive opportunities. There was chances Harry Kane hit the bar. There was also chances that you were thinking if Harry Kane was still on the pitch in the second half, he would have scored. It was Leon Goretzka, luckily, that was on the end of those chances. Yes, he's a goal-scoring midfielder, but it was a header that he glanced just wide that you're like, Harry Kane would have snapped that up. But Celtic hung on until the 93rd minute into the 94th minute of, extra time was there. Extra time was waiting, that extra half hour. But it was Alphonso Davies, affectionately known in Germany as the Roadrunner, and you can see why he was called that, because he nipped in at the back post to steal the ball, kind of hit the ball off of Cameron Carter-Vickers and into the back of the net. Tony, what was the reaction like at full time and in the mix zone? I know you've been speaking to quite a few players and the manager after the game. What was the emotions like at full time from those at the club?
From those at the club, they were, it was a sore one. They felt absolutely gutted and crestfallen. But again, I think they were immensely proud of what they'd achieved. And because they'd been written off in all quarters, Ryan, lots of people thought it would be a repeat of Dortmund and that Bayern would go for town on Celtic. Didn't materialise that way. In the stadium, Bayern supporters were relieved, because I was sitting more or less in the halfway line, and the Bayern supporters were right beside us, and they were relieved, because when Celtic went 1-0 up, they were panicking, and they loud exhales and inhales of breath and shouting, and they were turning against their team for their performance, which they just couldn't believe. So when Davies scored, there was much relief and much rejoicing, and much looking round at me and saying things in German. You don't need to be fluent in German to understand what they were maybe saying. But hey, that's football. That's the beauty and ugly side of football, isn't it? Celtic had their moment, and for a while after Kuhn scored, it looked like they might go through. Maida's got the diving header, gets a bit of purchase in that, who knows. But listen, Kasper Schmeichel kept Celtic in it for long periods, didn't he? That's why he's there. Yeah, that's why he's there. And but I think you have to say Celtic create. It's the first time, not the first time, but it's the first time in a long time I've seen Celtic go to a team, top calibre team like that, and carve them open, Ryan. These weren't chances that just fell and they were lucky to get. They carved them open, and that for me gives you hope and real optimism moving forward. You look back at the campaign, there's been various highs and lows, but there's been real progress there, Ryan, and it's now you're excited for the next step, aren't you?
Yeah, well, that's what I wanted to talk about, Tony, because I didn't want to focus. I know you're in Munich still just now, but I thought we would have a holistic, retrospective look at Celtic's Champions League campaign for the 2024-25 season, because it has been a bit of a mixed bag, admittedly, with some good results, some not so good results, some highs, some lows. But it's been an exciting European campaign. I was saying this on the post-match show that it feels like Celtic have been involved in absolutely every single sort of scenario of a game. You know, from dominating against the likes of Slovan Bratislava, a really not a giant killing, but a sort of on paper, RB Leipzig are a better team than Celtic, but getting that win at home, one of the best home performances I've ever seen Celtic put on in Europe. Late goals on both ends. You know, you look at the young boys' performance, you know, which was an up and down, showing a really nervy performance, but that intervention from Adam Ida and the own goal from the young boys' captain, the late goal that Bayern Munich scored at the Allianz Arena, you know, taking it to Bayern Munich in the home leg. It's been an up and down showcase this season for Celtic. But Celtic haven't made up the numbers. They were one of the teams that were in the playoff position alongside the likes of Bayern Munich, PSG, Man City. They got the results that they needed in the league phase. They got to the playoff stage and they were so unlucky. They were, 15, 20, 25 seconds away from taking it to extra time against a team that look rejuvenated under Vincent Kompany, albeit they didn't look great in the return leg, even though they made loads of chances. You know, the household names, Harry Kane, Leon Goretzka, Michael Olise, Kim Min-jae, who made that mistake. But it was just a great European campaign for Celtic. What were your highs and low points, Tory? I suppose my first question to you would be.
I mean, I think that the high of restoring the credibility back at that level and knowing that you are a Champions League team, there's no fear factor now, Ryan. If you can produce that in the Allianz Arena, you can do it anywhere. That bar and template standard has now been set from a Celtic team. Highs are obviously the RB Leipzig performance. Absolutely. Again, Brendan Rodgers labelled that a generational game, didn't he? Easy to see why. I think we spoke at the time on the pod, didn't we, when we said Celtic did to RB Leipzig what usually a German teams like RB Leipzig, Bayern Munich do to them. And I think when Brendan Rodgers' tenure is finished, managerial tenure is finished at Celtic, he will look back at that second goal against RB Leipzig that night. The press couldn't end up with a tap-in, but it's everything in the lead-up to it that typifies what a Celtic team under Brendan Rodgers is all about. The high press, the forcing teams into mistakes and capitalising on it. And that'll be arguably one of his favourite goals, if not his favourite. I'd like to ask him that, given the chance, but I don't want him to leave at this moment in time because there's lots of excitement. As you say, the Slovan Bratislava game, they treated Slovan Bratislava like the opposition that they should, maybe inferior. They go to Dortmund and get an absolute slapping. But to recover from that, Ryan, to actually learn in 2 weeks to rip that video apart. Alistair Johnson spoke about that. You were asking about guys talking, and it's these things you pick up and you learn. Alistair Johnson said they went through that tape. So they must have went through that tape with a fine tooth comb, because from 2 weeks from being annihilated in Dortmund, they go to Bergamo to play Atalanta, Europa League winners, who can't score against them, with a defensive display that was very un-Celtic-like. And then you're thinking that night, a bit of more ambition and creating chances like they did in Munich. They would have won that match as well, or they could have won that match. So it was a real kind of up and down, wasn't it? And then from that, obviously, they play Leipzig and then Young Boys, and then the two drawn games against Club Brugge, coming from behind. And then the disappointing one's probably Zagreb, which you were at.
Absolutely.
That was there for the taking, eh? So, again, but the learnings being that if you can't win it, don't lose it. But you were there that night. That was a game that Celtic should have won. Probably like the Shakhtar game under Ange in Poland. You know, when they created lots of chances. I mean, Celtic never created lots of chances that night in Zagreb, but I still feel it was there for the taking.
As somebody said in the comments, and I'm going to find the comment, it's all about turning those draws into wins, because they can not just help you qualify, but they also give you a better seeding and the teams that you can face. Yes, it's a bit of a lottery because there can be teams that underachieve and then they show their A game in the next round or in the playoff round, like Real Madrid, etc. Bayern Munich, PSG are coming to the fore now as well. But it puts you in a better position because more often than not, you'll come up against a team that's, a middle of the pack. You could be coming up against a Brest, you'd be coming up against a PSV, etc. Feyenoord, even though Feyenoord put AC Milan out last night as well, which was a bit of a shocking but great result for Feyenoord, especially because they're managerless at the moment. Europe this season, I think it's been a sideshow, but a good sideshow for Celtic as well, because I think that excitement and the fact that you've had those 8 games to play in the group stage, plus the 2 knockout games against Bayern Munich, it's been a good exercise for Celtic in showing them where they really are in terms of shaping up against some of Europe's greatest teams. Yes, the draw was favourable because you get the likes of Slovan Bratislava and Young Boys, both who had torrid campaigns, as well as RB Leipzig, who had one of the most surprising campaigns I've ever seen from a top team. They're a top team in Germany with players coming through their system every single year and making it in top 5 leagues. Especially under Marco Rose, to have that sort of campaign was a bit of a shock. But you've got to beat the teams in front of you, and those 3 teams that Celtic had in front of them, they beat them. That was those 9 points. Those really, really big 9 points that got them through to that next round.
Yeah, you can only play who you're drawn against, Ryan. Bottom line, isn't it? And people can say it was a favourable draw, but it's still the Champions League. These teams are in there in merit as well. But I think what Celtic have shown now is that there should be no inferiority complex at this level. This manager is hell-bent on taking Celtic to that next level. And I mentioned on the podcast this morning with Hamish and John, they made the playoff round this year. You put it up on the board last 16 for next season. That has to be one of your goals because you want to constantly progress and improve in the evolution of this team. This is what Brendan Rodgers wants. So that starts now. The preparation for this, the Champions League qualifiers start now. And you would urge, the board to back this manager in the summer. Let him get the players in early. And do you know what else would be the ultimate statement and signal of intent, Ryan? Do not sell any of the players that we have at the club at this moment in time. You're adding Tierney to that. You'll have a fit Jota. Resist any attempts to prize Kuhn away from anybody, and let's see what can happen. And then if you're going to do business, do it early. Get them in, get them settled, so that by the time the qualifiers come, you breeze through it, no matter the opposition. That to me is forward planning. That to me is what Brendan Rodgers was outlining last night, half an hour after Celtic have been toughed out the tournament. And I mentioned the point, that's why he's an elite level manager. It's like, right, park it, we're out, never mind the glorious failure, we played well, we're all proud of what the team did, arm me to the teeth and I'll take it a step further. That's what I want to hear, Ryan. I don't want to hear about glorious failure. I don't want, you're proud of what the team did in that stage and that level of and calibre of opposition, but I want to hear what's going to happen next.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jeffrey Slip signing would be good as well, and I know you wrote about him today on the Stats Bomb, didn't you? About how good he was.
That's available. It's available on the website just now. I just checked it 2 minutes ago. It's already up and live on the site. I'll need to social that once I come off the stream. But yeah, Jeffrey Schlupp, I thought, brought that authority that you need, a Premier League authority on that left-hand side against Michael Olise. He took it personally, took it as a personal challenge to come up against his former teammate and Michael Olise, and for the most part he kept him very, very quiet. It was a good cross to Michael Olise, or into Alphonso Davies's path, but for the most part he was quiet in the game, as was Serge Gnabry, who has been getting quite a torrid time actually after the game for his individual performance, which shows you Celtic kept him quiet. A guy that tore Tottenham apart 4 or 5 years ago, I remember, in the Champions League, a seasoned veteran for German football, got that Premier League experience with Arsenal as well, but Celtic kept him quiet. Leroy Sané kept him quiet in the game too. You look at him, he's a pace merchant. You thought he was going to come on the pitch and run Celtic ragged. That wasn't the case. Celtic kept him quiet. Harry Kane, 45 minutes on the park, kept him largely quiet, apart from him hitting the bar on a couple of half chances. What I was going to ask you next, Tony, where does Celtic need to improve ahead of next season's qualifiers? Because it looks very, very likely. In fact, I think it's been confirmed that Celtic will have to face one qualifier in the middle of August in the playoff round to get into the Champions League phase. What does Celtic need in order to make that a bit of a cakewalk and get back into the Champions League? Then once they're there, to improve further and get to that last 16 spot?
I would go middle to front, Ryan. I would sign a defender, I would sign a midfielder, I would sign a striker. See that spine of your team? Just belt and braces and bring in quality people. They need a striker for definite, don't they? They've got Jota and can you hope that they can stay? I still want a big powerhouse of a midfielder, Ryan, big physical presence, but that's no slight in Arne Engels, because Arne Engels was one of the best players in the park last night, if not the best player. People will argue the toss and that, but this guy's 21. He could be something else for Celtic moving forward. But I would like more in there as well to complement him and help him, if that's possible. And you know my thoughts. I always say it, and it seems a simple thing to say, but you can never not get enough good great players in your team, and you find a system that suits them. And see, when Brendan Rodgers brings in players, he's modus operandi to improve them. Every player is getting better under Brendan Rodgers. To see if they weren't, you're nowhere near that level. And see, when Brendan Rodgers came in the summer of 2023, see, to project forward and say you'll go toe-to-toe with Bayern Munich in the Champions League, you'd have been laughed out of town. Because let's just say Celtic's reputation in Europe wasn't stellar, was it?
No, I was having a look at Celtic's European campaigns on the UEFA official website. The web, it's easy to find on their website. It doesn't make for the greatest reading in the 2010s at all, apart from a couple of really good campaigns. You actually need to go to the Europa League to see one of Celtic's better European campaigns, that one under Neil Lennon in the 2019-2020 season, where he topped the group that contained Lazio in it as well as Rennes. And Cluj, I believe it was. That was a really good campaign. But in terms of the Champions League, you need to actually go back to the likes of 2012, 2013 under Neil Lennon, where they get 7 wins, 4 losses and a draw. And that includes qualifying rounds as well. The official data counts them as Champions League matches. Then after that, you need to go to 2007, 2008 under Gordon Strachan. 3 wins, 5 losses, 2 draws. 2006, 2007, 3 wins, 3 losses, 2 draws. So this season, Celtic have managed this. Obviously, Celtic didn't have any qualifiers. They played 10 games in total. So they get 3 wins, 4 losses, and 4 draws. Tony, it's all about getting those draws in to win, and that would look like one hell of a European campaign. That's got to be the aim. The next question for me, Tony, to you. Brendan Rodgers' comments, they perked my interest last night, because he was talking about improving this team in Europe for the long term. Now, everybody knows that his contract's up at the end of next season. He didn't really strike me, Tony, and I don't know about you, he didn't strike me as a guy that wants to leave anytime soon. I know we've been stung like this before, the first time around, but the way that he was talking, he sees Celtic as a long-term project. And for me, and I'm just projecting here, I'm not predicting anything. I don't want to make those predictions. But he sounds like a guy that wants to be a year longer in those 3 years to see out Celtic's transformation from European nobodies to something in Europe.
That was in the detail, Ryan. I always tell you to open your ears and listen when he speaks. This is a man who said he came back for nights like last night, and it's nights like last night that will keep him here and will make him sign an extended deal.
They whet his appetite, don't they, Tony?
Without a doubt. Domestic dominance is great. He loves that. He loves being untouchable in Scotland, but he knows where it's at. That was a different gravy style of football that Celtic played last night, and it really, you saw that he was beaming with pride, but behind that was the fact that they'd still crashed out the tournament, and there was a realism there, but there was a realism in his head that I can take this further. So in order to take this further, I need time to do that. I need to stay. And again, he's very astute and he's very smart, and he knows when to say things. That's half an hour after you've just been turfed out the playoff round of the Champions League. And I said this morning, That was for the supporters' benefit. It was also for the benefit of those upstairs. You want to go places in the Champions League, I'll take you there. But you need to match my ambition. And two interested spectators last night were Dermot Desmond and Michael Nicholson. They glimpsed a possible future at Celtic in terms of being a Champions League level club. And that weighted Brendan Rodgers' appetite last night. Nobody will be enthusing about that more than Brendan Rodgers when he speaks to them in private, and he'll say to them, "You were there," with a sprinkling of X, Y, and Z. And you talk about Celtic pushing their financial parameters to the nth degree. I'm not saying being frivolous, but give them as much financial ammo as possible within a club of Celtic's financial means, and see what happens.
Would you say, Tony, that Celtic need better bench options? Now, I know that they've missed out on Paulo Bernardo due to injury. He'll be out injured for another 4 or 5 weeks. He's actually, his knee's in a boot, or his foot's in a boot at this moment in time while he recovers. Been a bit of a stop-start season for Paulo Bernardo due to form, availability as well. You know, injuries, you can't help them at times. Will Brendan Rodgers, ahead of next season, will he be looking at those bench options? You know, the likes of, he only made 2 subs last night. He brought on Adam Ida, and he brought on Yang as well, which is another vote of confidence for Yang, and he probably deserves to be making these appearances given what he's doing in training, clearly. But is Rodgers now needing more bench options to bring off of that bench in those games after 60 minutes when the team's tiring? You know, it's all well and good Luke McCowan playing in domestic games, but the fact that he wasn't brought on, does that say something that Celtic need to up the quality in Europe?
That would be the signal they would have sent to Dermot Desmond and Michael Nicholson. Celtic nearly pulled off the miracle in Munich with a bit more quality to bring on and see the game out. Could they have scored a second goal? Would have, should have, could have. But the possibility was there, Ryan. A tantalising prospect of scoring a second goal in the Allianz Arena to knock Bayern out in their own backyard. And he turned to his bench options, which weren't the greatest. Thought Adam Ida did well when he came on, incidentally. Mm-hmm. And so it's fine margins. Celtic bowed out the Champions League on fine margins. They had a 25-minute spell at Celtic Park where they were terrific. And then they had spells last night when they were absolutely terrific again. And they have lost 3-2 in aggregate. Bearing in mind their last trip to Germany ended in a 7-1 hammering. You can't tell me that there's not been progress there, and you can't tell me that this manager can't and won't progress it even further, given enough tools to do the job. Because you trust them implicitly, and you trust this group of players. And if there's one man that will keep this group of players in situ and together, it's our current manager.
Mm-hmm. In order to help a builder, you need to give him the best tools possible, and I think he's got the makings of a good toolbox at this moment in time. Yeah. We need to see more in the coming. We need to see that more in terms of the investments into the squad, and more importantly, probably keeping that squad together. You know, knowing a player's valuation, selling a player when their value is at the most optimum is the way that Celtic are going to be. But if you can try your hardest to keep this team together, keep Nicholas Kuhn, you know, there might be players that might see the exit door in the summer, such as Hatate. He might feel that his race is run at Celtic. Other players, potentially Cameron Carter-Vickers, if he wanted to move elsewhere. Fingers crossed that isn't the case, because I think there's a great partnership between him and Austin Trusty forming, and that defensive backline as a whole is looking really, really strong, which is great to see. But it's all about replacing those players with, if you can, get better players. You know, Celtic always talk about leaving transfer windows stronger than when they entered it. I don't think Celtic are stronger than when they entered the January one. They can't make it 2 windows in a row. They've got to utilise their finances in the summer and bring in that quality that will first of all get you through to the group stage or the league phase of the Champions League, and then push on from there.
They've got to be proactive in the transfer market this summer, Ryan, not reactive as they usually are. But I'll put that back over the net to you when you were talking about the likes of Carter-Vickers and Hatate, right? Now, whoever's going to come in for them, fine, that some teams may or may not. But I'll ask you this, are Champions League calibre teams coming in to sign Carter-Vickers and Rio Hatate? will they get? They'll get more money if they decide to move on, right? Tune as well for that matter. But will they get that platform to play at that elite level and to actually maybe try and achieve something tangible? And working with arguably one of the best managers they will ever serve under in their football careers. And I think at this minute in time, Celtic's a great place to be. You know, Matt O'Reilly chased it and went elsewhere. I get that, and that's fine. And I've no qualms about players wanting to leave this football club. But see, at this juncture, when the manager can build something really good, why would you not want to be part of that? Because I think Celtic's a wonderful proposition, because they are now looking at the fact that if you're playing at that elite level and you're claiming scalps, turning those draws into wins, domestic dominance follows, doesn't it? So you're still going to be so you're still going to be successful, but then you're taking a different level of success in a different arena, and that's where Brendan Rodgers craves success, and to have a team worthy of the name, the great Celtic name and tradition that they have in European competition. Spoke off air before we came on, and I said 1980 was the last time Celtic reached the last 8 of the Champions League / European Cup. You know, why can Celtic not surpass that? Why can't this time be? Why can't their time be now to go and do something like that and emulate that? And I think that's what you have to set your template, your standard, your bar, in achieving those things. Maybe not say it outwardly, but inwardly say, do you know what? Last night proved that, you know, with the right squad and in the right situation, because we have the right manager and we have the right players, the situation feels right, doesn't it? And I just think you have to capitalise on that. We can see it, the manager can see it, the players can see it. It's now over to those who claim to also work in the best interests of the football club. Please do, and enjoy success that might come your way at a level a couple of years ago you thought would be a pipe dream.
Yeah, and they've got the Celtic support and those who cover Celtic ever so close to that promised land that we all want to get back to. My final point to your question to you was, I was going to touch on Munich again. What has Munich been like as a city in general? How has it been? I know you arrived there, what was it, Tuesday morning, Tuesday afternoon. You've been there for just over 2 days now. What's your opinion been on the city, the capital of Bavaria? How have the people been? What's the architecture been like? And what was the Allianz Arena like?
Stunning. That's a stunning venue. I highly recommend that to anybody. It's just a wonderful arena when it's lit up at night as well. And I've always said this, Ryan, there are times in your professional career where things make you feel grounded, and I was very humble about being able to cover Celtic last night in that arena and watching Celtic do themselves justice and do themselves proud. And I never take it for granted. It's something that's it's taken a long time for myself to do this, and I've savoured every minute of this. I love Bergamo as well. I love Italy as a country, but I really like this. The architects are stunning. That's just the tip of the iceberg behind me, and the people are great. They all speak English and they're very helpful. But just being in it, it's a wonderful European city. I can't recommend it highly enough. And I understand that the Scotland supporters came here in their thousands and had a ball last summer. Pity the tournament didn't go the way they would have liked, but I think the Celtic supporters would have loved the experience of being here, topped off by the fact that their team did them proud and did themselves justice. And it's been a wonderful trip in that sense, and I'm always very grateful and thankful for the opportunity to do it.
Yep, absolutely. I think that's a great way to finish off this evening show that we've done. Thank you very much, Tony, for joining us. Taking time out of your day in Germany to come and join us and speak for half an hour about all things Celtic.
Pleasure.
I'm sure it isn't a chore for you at all. Any excuse to talk about Celtic, I'm sure you'll take with both hands, feet, and lungs as well. So it was a joy as always to be on. Just before we finish off, guys, I just want to point you all towards the current offer that we've got going on at the Celtic Way at the moment. We are currently doing £1 for 6 months. Now you will be getting breaking manager and player interviews, match tactics and analysis with stats bomb data, scouting reports and player analysis, exclusive Celtic interviews, unlimited access to our bespoke ad-free app. And when the transfer window opens, you'll be getting the transfer latest from everybody, from myself, from John, from Tony, and from everybody else that's involved with the Celtic Way. Thank you to each and every one of you for joining us. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already on the YouTube page. We're trying our hardest to grow this as far as we can and as big as we can. We can't do that without the support of you guys. Thanks to each and every one of you that have put in comments in the comments section. Sorry we couldn't bring them up. It was just a bit of a riveting conversation between you and I that I quite enjoyed doing, talking about everything to do with Celtic in Europe this season. Promise to get you guys more involved in some of the upcoming shows that we've got going on. Thank you to everybody. Tony, you enjoy your last night in Germany and in Munich, and we'll see you all very, very soon. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you all in the morning briefing tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Cheers, guys.